Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with Part 2, the Royal Descent of the Masonic Apron. From the Apron, Its Traditions, History, and Secret Significances by Frank C. Higgins. The Royal Descent of the Masonic Apron. The writer was first moved to make a special investigation of the properties of the Masonic apron upon the representations of Dr. John A. Weiser, M.D., the interesting author of the monograph published at the time of the erection of the obelisk of Thutmose III, now in Central Park, New York, and entitled The Obelisk in Freemasonry. This book, being in most Masonic libraries, may be readily referred to. Dr. Weiser's work constitutes still another of the extremely near approaches to truth which the writer is constantly encountering, where, for want of the key to the whole general system, no satisfactory explanation is possible. In calling attention to the elaborate ceremonial aprons worn by Egyptian monarchs as chief hierophants of the sun god Amun-Ra, Figure 9, which he produces in colors from the atlas of the celebrated explorer Belzoni, Dr. Weiser says, "Wisdom was never more exemplified than when it adopted the pyramidic and triangular form of the sublime architect of the heavens, machined on the firm basis of eternal stability. The united brethren universally will adopt, I hope, the original form of Masonic aprons and establish a jubilee to commemorate the restoration of that event by casting into the flames the present aprons of the unmeaning form of Saint Crispin, patron saint of cobblers and shoemakers. The plate represents Pharaoh, Ou-Sari, king of Egypt in Masonic communication with one of that order, whose head is covered with a mask, representing the head of Ibis, the god Thoth, celestial scribe, or recording angel. The king is invested with the triangular Masonic apron, holding in his right hand the grand Masonic and last grade obtained, the Ankh Cross or Key of Eternal Life. The second drawing, Figure 9, represents the triangular Masonic apron united with the apron of serpents. Figure 8, the god Thoth receiving the word of life from a pharaoh, from Belzoni. Figure 9, apron of the Egyptian pharaohs as grand masters of the mysteries, from Belzoni. We may here leave to readers of the original work Dr. Weiser's assertion at this point that Masonic signs and symbols originated in the first separation which took place in the family of Adam. He is not the first to have jumped at the hastily conclusion that the Masonic apron represented that of fig leaves invented in the Garden of Eden. It shall now be our humble endeavor to rescue the distinguished badge of a master mason from the obloquy of comparison with the shoemaker's humble but indispensable lap covering, though honest labor may dignify the latter. Examination of any of the old Egyptian monuments or pictures of such will reveal the fact that aprons are badges, or distinguishing marks of all the gods, kings, hierophants, and priests engaged in the rites of public worship. Only because of the fact that all the Egyptian figures are exhibited in profile, we never have such a front view as would make this at once apparent. The apron of the ordinary celebrant seems to be a triangle of white cloth depending from the waist in front, and having its corners pinned to the tunic at each side. In the case of the Grand Masters, however, the apron is most conspicuous because of the elaborate design upon it. The design is evidently a representation of the rising and setting sun, as to the lower corners and of the sun at the meridian. The monarch's name, Cartouche, at the apex. Esoteric ceremonial and esoteric superstition among this people conceded that the monarch was the embodiment of the solar deity. The rays of the suns are so directly as to describe a regular progression of geometrical angles, such as may be observed on a gnomon. Over this sun apron seems to be worn by the highest authorities another, called because of its peculiar decorative features, the serpent apron, the modern Masonic apron. Brethren, just as we wear it in the lodge and chapter, today has descended to us intact in every particular from the immensely ancient Jehovah worshippers who builded the pyramids both of Egypt and the American continent. This is not a matter for assertion alone, but one calling for serious and scientific proof, such as can be accepted even by the brother who credits absolutely nothing on faith or heresy. To convey this proof, we must digress for a moment to the subject of pyramid forms. We have already shown you the triangle which constitutes the vertical axis of the Great Pyramid of Giza, erected by the Hyksos or Semitic shepherd king, Khufu, called by the Greeks Cheops, about the year BC 2150 to commemorate, among other things, the great solar eclipse of the year in which it was begun. All pyramids involve the presence of two distinct triangles, one which constitutes the vertical section of such a monument, and the other, four in number, which constitute its sloping sides. The geometrical law in this respect will be to the effect that the side of the vertical section will be the vertical axis of the lateral side, the bases being the same. Let us illustrate it this wise. If you will cut four pieces like CAB of paper, you will find that they form a perfect pyramid, shaped like CED, on a square base. If, on the other hand, we perform the same operation on a reducing instead of an increasing scale, the vertical axis of CED will become the side of a triangle, FCH, which will be equal to two Pythagorean triangles placed back to back. This latter triangle, with its base of 16 parts and lateral sides of 10 each, seems to have been the emblem of the sun god, 36, and certainly became the essential figure of the Masonic apron universally. Figure 11. Figure 12. A circumstance which has, singularly enough, escaped the attention of Egyptologists, who usually unite in abusing the second and third pyramids as bastards and meaningless imitations of the great first, is that the second pyramid, that of Meserinus, or Menkaure, has for its vertical section 2, 3, 4, 5 triangles, as in figure 13, while the third, that of Khephren, or Khafra, is built on the plan of the great original in the lesser volume. All the pyramids in either Egypt or America must be studied on this system to yield their meanings. The Belzoni apron upon which Dr. Weiser dwells is shown to be the royal cartouche at the apex, to be that of Pharaoh Ramses II, builder of the great Manonium at Abydos and oppressor of the Israelites, whose reign is placed at approximately BC 1270. The secret of this apron resides entirely in its proportions, which are those of a triangle having an apex of 54 degrees and two bottom angles of 63 degrees each. Figure 14. These two figures were both eminently sacred Masonic numbers, belonging to the 9 or 3 times 3 series. Now, by following the law of pyramidal progression, which we have exhibited, we will discover that all of our pyramid proportions are herein concealed, as the following key will quickly show. Figure 14, key to the pyramids and Masonic aprons of the world. The use of the compasses will demonstrate the following geometrical verities. If we will now place the triangles CFG and DFG point to point, we will find that they constitute a perfect square, the significance of which will be perfectly apparent. It is this square with the triangle DFG forming the flap which makes our modern Masonic apron, figure 15. The reason why this design is worn as an apron may be confidently assumed to have the ancient phallic significance of the Hebrew letter Jod, which represents both the number 10 and the vertical line of the inverted towel. If any further corroboration were required than the facts as were given them, we may cite the fact that the tombs of Egypt, Syria, Mesopotamia, and Persia abound in stone, porcelain, glass, and pottery amulets have no other significance than to display these sacred triangles. The proof would be found in measuring their angles or counting the dots or indentions which supply the relative proportions. Figure 15, more ancient than the Golden Fleece. Figure 16, black stone amulet from Tomb of Ancient Tarian. A still greater importance attaches itself to this apron of Ramses II, figure 9, with reference to the party-colored stripe extending down the center from the solar disk bearing the monarch's cartouche, at the top of the twin serpents representing the dual principle at the bottom. It will be observed that this strip is composed of alternating bars of red, black, green, black, etc. to the extent of 12. Red is the sun color and so represents male or spirit. Green is the earth color, representing female or matter, and black, the color born of the union of red and green, standing for the progenitor of both. Exoterically, Osiris, Isis, Horus. Now if we will assimilate the red to J, the green to V, and the black to H, we will find that with the 3 red strips, 3 green, and 6 black, we have the equivalent of 3 times JHVH. This is the precise formula which the early Hebrews employed to represent the sacred Egyptian triangle of 345. They redistributed the letters to read as thus, or he that was, he that is, and he that is to come, paraphrasing the famous declaration of Horus in the Book of the Dead, I am yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Figure 17. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.